Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. With Kingdom just about to conclude the amazing War for Cybertron trilogy, I thought that it would be a great idea in order to give you my thoughts and speculation on what we can expect to see in 2022 in regards to the next Transformers major line. Now of course, before we get into this video, it is worth noting that everything I shall be discussing is merely speculation and nothing as of yet is confirmed, although we have gotten some good indication of what the next line may entail from various reliable sources. So we shall of course discuss that in this video. I shall actually be breaking this up into 3 segments. So in the first chapter of this video, we shall be discussing some of the overflows that I expect to see in 2022, such as some of those Beast Wars characters and those G1 characters that just never made it into the cut of the War for Cybertron line. I shall then be moving on to the second segment, which is where I shall discuss what type of a line we can expect for 2022. And then in the third and final segment, I shall be discussing what I hope to see coming up in the near future. So let's get straight into it. So some of the Beast Wars characters that we haven't as of yet gotten and characters that I don't expect to get are the likes of Tarantulas. This is a character that we have to have. Tarantulas was arguably one of the most creepiest Predacons, and I think that he would be a really easy figure to actually make, as essentially all they would have to do is give a very heavy retool to Scorponok and boom, you've got yourself a Tarantulas. And considering they've given us the likes of Black Arachnia, and I believe that even Pterosaur is rumoured to be coming out in an upcoming Amazon pack, I definitely think this guy is on the horizon and is a character that we can most likely be certain that we shall be expecting next year in 2022. We of course need to get an actual Predacon Inferno. For those of you who watched my Kingdom Voyager G1 Inferno review, you guys all know that I really believe that figure should have been saved for Generation Select in order to make way for the actual Beast Wars Inferno. This is a character that I would love to get an updated generation representation of, as I think it would look fantastic. I imagine that Hasbro would probably pack him in the deluxe assortment. Maybe he would be a little larger of a deluxe, but he had a really terrifying looking ant alternate mode. Ants for me have always been really creepy, and I would just love to get an updated representation of this character. Much like Tarantulas, he was a very creepy, very intimidating Predacon, and considering it looks like Hasbro are giving us pretty much all of the major Maximals, it's about time they pulled their finger out and gave us some of the major Predacons. We could then of course also delve into some of the Transmetal characters. Now this, I'm not entirely sure as to whether or not Hasbro is ready to actually delve into that. Some of the Transmetal characters are a little more obscure when in comparison to the major Beast Wars characters, but it's something that they could maybe dip their toes into, much like we saw from that Cybertron Galaxy upgrade Optimus Prime in Transformers Siege. Do not worry, we shall discuss that figure later in this video, but I do think that maybe we could see perhaps 1 or 2 Transmetal figures introduced in the next line of figures. Then of course we move into the G1 characters. Now I have no idea as to why we have not yet gotten an Autobot Blaster. Blaster is arguably one of the most popular Transformers G1 characters, and I have no idea as to why Hasbro haven't as of yet released this character. He would be so easy to do. Honestly, they could just take the Netflix Soundwave and enhance him, remold some of the pieces, give him a brand new deco, perhaps include some of his cassettes, and boom, you would have a really nice, more than likely Target exclusive Voyager class Sound Blaster pack. I think this character is definitely on the horizon. It's one that I personally have been wanting for a very long time, and I know many of you too have, so I am expecting to see introduced into the Voyager assortment at least sometime in the near future. I would then also really love to see them actually conclude the mini-bots. Of course, we've got Bumblebee so far, we've got Huffer, Pipes is also rumoured, we've got Bumblebee, etc. So we really need Brawn. Why haven't Hasbro as of yet released Brawn? Well, I think they're saving that for next year. We always appear to get in the first wave a slightly smaller deluxe, and I think that Brawn would definitely fit that category perfectly. He has one of the most interesting designs ever to come out of G1. We also recently saw his design updated in the Transformers Bumblebee movie, so even a Studio Series representation of that character I think could perhaps even fit into your Generation 1 display. So definitely I'm really holding out hope to see a Transformers Brawn next year. And then we move on to an Overflow character, which honestly is more of a wish than anything. I would love to see Hasbro give us a proper Studio Series 86 movie collect and build Devastator with all of the individually released Constructicons consisting of the Voyager and Deluxe class scale, and even perhaps even the Leader scale, much like they did with their Bayformers Devastator. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that the Studio Series never had as much hype surrounding it when they were indeed doing their ROTF Devastator, and I think that doing a G1 Devastator honestly could be fantastic. It would be one of the biggest ensembles that Hasbro have ever done since Studio Series Devastator, perhaps even being bigger than him, as I do believe the G1 Devastator is comprised of more Constructicons than the Bayformers one. And don't get me wrong, I really did think that the Titan class Combiner Wars Devastator we got a few years back, and then of course recently reissued, was really well done, but it definitely had its flaws, as all of those figures had to fit fit in that Titan class budget, whereas if they just did individually release Constructicons, honestly, I think it could be mind-blowing and could potentially definitely rival some of those third-party offerings that are currently out on the market. I would love to know down in the comment section below on what you guys think. Do you think that it is time for an updated representation of G1 Devastator? I certainly think so, and considering how awesome some of these Studio Series 86 figures have been, I think it could honestly be one of the best figures or one of the best combiners to ever be produced by Hasbro in many years. Of course, 2022 marks the release of yet another Transformers live action movie, which at the time of this recording is shrouded in mystery. Nobody really knows as to whether or not it's going to be a Bumblebee sequel, if it will exist in that universe, will it be a part of a new Beast Wars series, who knows. But one thing that we all do know is that there shall be a massive toy line for that. Now, whether that means that the Studio Series shall be getting an expansion and shall in fact be more exposed next year in order to kind of accommodate for what the War for Cybertron would have been, I guess we shall just have to wait and see. The Studio Series definitely has been a little lackluster in regards to reveals and releases this year, so I'm definitely hoping for a really big and bold return in 2022. But then we move on to the second chapter of this video, and that is, what do I personally expect to see? Well, I expect to see in the next line of Transformers an almost thrilling 30 lineup of sorts. So they could do some Cybertron figures, they could do some Armada figures, they could do some animated figures, they could even produce some Transformers Prime figures, all of which I would absolutely love. Now, I must be honest and say that Armada, Cybertron and animated, I never grew up with those. They were slightly before my time. Transformers Prime and the live action movies were really what got me into Transformers, so I don't have a nostalgic attachment to those, although I will be honest and say that I absolutely love the designs of some of those characters, especially from Transformers Cybertron. Now, Hasbro did kind of tease us in regards to Transformers Cybertron when they did of course reveal that Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. Honestly, he sticks out like a sore thumb in the entire War for Cybertron line. He honestly was just randomly thrown in there, and I think that was Hasbro testing the waters to see as to whether or not there was fan demand for more Cybertron figures, and I think that figure was received pretty well. I really do like it. Of course, it was a heavy retool of Siege Ultra Magnus, but I actually revisited the figure a couple of days ago and it's fantastic. It really is an awesome leader figure, so I am hoping to maybe see some more Transformers Cybertron figures. Honestly, they could do anything. Now, Transformers Animated is a line I have had many of you actually request I do throwback reviews on, as apparently those toys are so well done. Now, I've never actually picked up any of the animated figures, and believe me, I am actually tempted to do so in order to give you a look back video and my kind of first impressions, but those toys, comparing them to their on-screen CG models, were fantastic, and I believe animated was well over 10 years ago now. I mean, it must be like 15 years, 2006, 2007, may have even been 2008, I'm not 100% certain, but it was a long time ago. So if they were able to produce such fantastic toys back then, can you imagine what they could put out now with modern technology? Honestly, I think the animated line is a goldmine for Hasbro, and they would be stupid not to at least try and re-release or reissue some of those figures, much like they did with Transformers Prime. And this is where I kind of merge this second chapter of this video in with the third and final chapter, that being what I hope to see from the next line. Now, I don't know about yourselves, but Transformers Prime has got to be one of the best TF animated shows we have gotten within the last decade. Honestly, it was such an awesome show, and nothing has compared to it. Now, the War for Cybertron graphics are fantastic, but the storytelling, the voice acting, and just some of the choices in regards to that show, to me at least, are not the best. Transformers Prime was a very solid series. Season 1, Season 2, and even Beast Hunters for Season 3 were awesome, and much like animated, I think there is such a big fan demand for this. And like Cybertron, they did actually test the waters with Transformers Prime when they did those reissues last year, and they flew off shelves. I mean, even looking at some of the aftermarket prices of those reissues, they go for astronomical prices. So I think Hasbro know there is a demand for Transformers Prime, they know there is a demand for animated, and they know that there is a demand for Cybertron. Now we move on to Armada. In 2019, at I believe Wonder Festival, Hasbro did indeed tease a prototype of an Armada Optimus Prime, and as of yet that has never seen the light of day. It was merely just a grey prototype. It has been a question asked by many fans for many years as to why that figure never got released, and Hasbro and Takara Tomy have never really given us a defining answer. I believe they are indeed saving that figure for the next 2022 lineup of Transformers figures, and I'm really hoping that they do. I would love to be able to explore some of these lines that perhaps I wasn't able to do as a child. I think it would open an entire realm for Hasbro, and honestly, it is just a goldmine waiting to happen. They could do an entire, almost thrilling 30 lineup of sorts. They could mix in some of the G1 Beast Wars characters that are overflows from Kingdom. They could also introduce the Prime figures. They could also introduce the animated figures. They could have such an amazing lineup, and it honestly is about time that Hasbro started noticing the S in generations. Don't get me wrong, I love the G1 characters, I do like the Beast Wars characters, but there is only so many times you can re-release and redo a G1 Optimus Prime and G1 Megatron before it does become rather rinse and repeat. I think it's about time that Hasbro started taking even bigger and bolder steps and gave us some of these characters that fans have been crying out for years. Now we move on to Studio Series. So as mentioned, I really hope to see a Studio Series Devastator, but I also hope to see more 86 figures introduced into that, and seeing as of course they are including the 86 movie in the Studio Series line, doesn't that mean that they can begin to start including some other movies, such as that Transformers Prime Season 3 movie, I believe it was called Beast Hunters or Predacon Rising, something along the lines of that. Imagine a Commander class Predaking, that would be absolutely fantastic. The original larger scale Predaking they did way back in 2012 was a pretty decent figure, but utilising today's technology, honestly, it would just blow your mind. First edition Prime, one of the best Optimus Primes of all time, and I'm talking about the Transformers Prime version, not the recently reviewed Age of Extinction figure that I took a look at over on the channel. So imagine once again what they could do in 2022 with that Prime design. I honestly think there is so much Hasbro can do, and I'm really hoping that at least a few cherry picks that I mentioned in this video do in fact make their way into the 2022 line. As me personally as a fan, I would love to see everything I've mentioned in this video. They could even expand that over into the next 3 years. That could be the second chapter. We could have all of these different worlds colliding, and considering they are doing this almost paradox where the Beast Wars characters meet the G1 characters in Kingdom, imagine if they did a paradox, a multiverse of all of the different Transformers mythologies colliding, all of the different universes. Honestly, it would absolutely blow collectors and fans' minds alike. So overall, that just about concludes this video. That is what I expect to see, and that is what I hope to see in next year's 2022 lineup. Do I think it will be a trilogy? I'm not entirely sure. It may just be another toy line like the Studio Series, and it may exist for many, many years. I don't think they are going to do any type of new series after Kingdom has aired. I believe there is an animated movie in the works with Nickelodeon. I could be completely wrong, but I'm sure I read that somewhere. But in regards to toys, I'd love to see Transformers Prime, I'd love to see a Studio Series 86 Devastator, and I would once again love to see some Armada, Cybertron, and of course animated figures. Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below on what you guys hope to see in 2022 in regards to Transformers. The War for Cybertron line is by far one of Hasbro's most successful Transformers toy lines of all time, so 2022 definitely does have a lot to live up to. I thank you all for watching, and also be sure to share your thoughts down in the comment section below, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.